Hey everybody, I hope you all are doing well and welcome back to Whiskey Wonders. And today we are in a Costco in San Diego that is probably the number two, the second best Costco in San Diego. Because I know some of you all have asked, where is the best place to go in San Diego? And yes, of course, the Costco on Marina Boulevard is going to be number one by a huge margin. But the next one up after that, if you were to go to a second one, it's going to be this one, which is in the same parking lot as an IKEA. And there's only one IKEA in San Diego, so it's kind of in that area. And it is going to be the number two best place to get whiskey at Costco if you're going wandering. To that end, today we see some pretty interesting whiskeys out of Woodford Reserve, a very high-end, a very luxe Baccarat, as well as a interesting one from Suntory, the AO World Whiskey, which I have only seen start to show up in Costco only recently and really see a whole lot more. Now, before we get to the video, if you like these videos, if you like the wanders, if you like the hauls, if you like the reviews, the unbottlings, the unboxings, and really all the amazing stuff that we have cooking up for you, and we have tons of amazing stuff cooking up for you, don't forget to like and subscribe because it does really help the channel to grow, and we are so thankful for that. But also, you get notifications when our newest videos come out on Sundays and, sometimes in between. All right, now, let's get down to the video. All right, so before we get to the video, let's do a real quick whiskey check, and I need to get a glass. And today, I think what I'm going to be enjoying is something from the Costco line. You know what? Let's do a little bit of the Kirkland small batch. I've been seeing it around here back on the shelves recently, so I don't feel so nervous about drinking it. So let's see if we can get a little juice there. Turn it over on both sides. All right, let's get a pop. Ooh, we'll get a pop. Pretty good. Above average, I would say. And now let's get some juice. Oh, yeah. And to whiskey, because honestly, realistically, you can never drink too much whiskey. You can only just really drink it too fast. Cheers. Ooh, it's not too bad. Not the best of the Kirkland batch. Definitely not the worst. All right, so first up today is going to be a very high-end, in fact, a very high-end offering from one of America's powerhouse of whiskey makers, Woodford Reserve. And in this case, it is the Woodford Reserve Baccarat Edition. Now, Woodford Reserve makes a pretty good everyday drinker. There is a standard Woodford Reserve, which everyone knows and loves. There's the double one. I think we have a double one. They got a double one as well, which is also a very good drinker and very enjoyable. And then there are the batch proofs, which are personally my favorite offerings out of Woodford Reserve. It's an 18, so they're a little hard to get. They tend to be allocated, but they are some of my favorites from Woodford Reserve. But then there is this one, the Woodford Baccarat Edition, which is always a bit of a head scratcher to me because I wonder, is Woodford with this Baccarat Edition just trying to be a little too much? Are they trying to get too big for their britches for really what it is? That's because the Woodford Reserve Baccarat Edition is supposed to be a high-end and extra luxe edition of the standard Woodford Reserve line, the whiskey that, again, a lot of us love. But the one catch to it is that it is finished in XO cognac cask. So essentially, they're trying to bring it up to the next level and doing it with, that halo effect, because cognac itself is seen as very expensive. And it has the era of aristocracy and all the hoi polloi used to drink it back in the day. And I think Woodford is trying to sort of cash in on that notion. Of course, the Woodford Reserve Baccarat Edition is distilled by both Brown-Forman and Woodford Reserve. It doesn't have any age statement on it, though, but it is aged an additional 3 years than the standard Woodford. And it has the same mash bill, 72% corn, 18% rye, and 10% malted barley. So again, you're not going to get a big distinction in the mash bill, but when you compare them, the one thing that is going to be different, and in fact, it's the same mash bill that you get with the double oaked or as well as the batch proofs, but in this case, you're going to get some of that cognac infused in there. Also, you get the presentation box, and you get all the kind of fancy schmanciness that goes along with it, and the bottle, which is probably going to be the one thing that does end up making up a majority of the cost, because when we talk about cost, it's going to be very expensive. which in my mind really makes this more of a gift for someone, something you would buy for a business partner or for a graduation or for something really important, rather than something that is really going to be geared towards a whiskey drinker. Because as a whiskey drinker myself, I'd rather take old grandpa's jug with the XXX on the side of it for $2 and then spend the rest of the money on getting some awesome juice, but marketing. So speaking of price on the Woodford Reserve Baccarat Edition, we can see here the cost is at $1,499 at Costco, which is undoubtedly, it is a lot of money for a finished Woodford Reserve in a fancy schmancy bottle, but it's still going to be better than what you would find it for at Total Wine, who does have it for sale at $1,799.99, or Bevmo, who's $100 more at $1,899.99. And also, again, that's still pretty good if you compare to what you can find it for at the duty free, where it is pretty prevalent. You will see them quite often, but they are considerably more expensive. So it means that if we did end up buying this one at Costco, though, we would have saved, a good $300 off, or around 20.8% off the lowest cost next one, which is at Total Wine. The ABV on the Woodford Reserve Baccarat is going to be pretty run-of-the-mill at 90.4 proof, or an ABV of 45.2%. Is that the same one that's on here? Oh, it is. It's the same. It is the same ABVs that you find on the standard line, but definitely not on the Masters collection. Oh no. Also, that means that it is going to be something that you can enjoy and, still keep all your clothes on by the end of the night, which, again, cannot be said for the batch proofs. The tasting notes on this one actually mention that it is very good and has a menagerie of sophisticated flavors like baked candied dates, cocktail cherries, sweet raisins, and a strong cognac influence, which, that does sound pretty good. The review scores that I found on it, though, are relatively few because, well, I don't think there's a lot of people rushing out to buy these. And again, you see them on shelves sitting there for quite some time. No one wants to spend buku bucks on a Woodford like this. But on average, it did get 83 points out of 100. So, I think really what has brought down that point score is the bad taste that the price leaves in people's mouths rather than the nice luxury feeling of the bottle that you get. So overall, this one was going to be a pass for us because, yeah, I am, of course, in it for the whiskey and not so much for the bottle. I'm not saying I'm not in it for the bottle. There's some of those hibickies that catch me off guard every once in a while. They know exactly what I'm looking for. But other than that, I'd like it to be more like 7-Eleven, where you can bring your own big drinking vessel and then fill up the whiskey as much as you like. But again, those are fantasies. So that being said, it was a pass for us, but it is a beautiful bottle. Good job, Woodford, but just not it's not up my alley. Now, next up is a whiskey that I always see either coming in or going out of the country because there are numerous at pretty much any US or European or Asian duty-free, which is going to be this Suntory AO World Whiskey. Now, only recently have we really begun to see these on the shelves at Costco, again, outside of a duty-free, at least here on the West Coast. My assumption here is that Suntory had ramped up the production during the pandemic and only really now are starting to see that big production lag start to dump copious amounts of Suntory whiskey into the market. Sort of like those old school turbo Porsches, when that turbo lag drops, it feels like somebody kicks you in the pants. It just all hits at once. Either way, there are tons of Hibiki, tons of Yamazaki, and tons of Hakushu, and even more AO now available at Costco at the moment. The Suntory AO is a non-age statement offering out of Suntory, and as a worldwide whiskey, it is a blend of whiskeys from Ardmore, Glengoria, Cooley, Alberta, Jim Beam, Yamazaki, and Hakushu distilleries. And really what it is the whiskey equivalent of those people you see in the international terminal roaming around with their suitcases with all the stickers from wherever they went on there, just kind of all over the place. It is, of course, produced by Beam Suntory, and it is sort of priced at that lower mid-tier level for the lines. The price that we see it here at Costco is at $55.99, which is pretty good considering it can be found at Total Wine for $65.99 or at Bevmo for $69.99. It is not considered allocated by really any stretch of the imagination. But if we did buy it at Costco, we would have saved $10 off the next lowest price at Total Wine, or 17.86%. The ABV on the Suntory AO World Whiskey is at 86 proof, or 43% ABV, which is, again, pretty standard ABV that you're going to get with a Suntory. And the tasting notes on it mention things like vanilla and light smoke and a more distinctive Canadian and American whiskey tinges, which totally makes sense, but it's kind of hard to explain. But much of the potential complexity of such a interesting concoction is going to be lost, at least according to the notes, because the low ABV and the light palate overall doesn't really serve as a great vehicle for the blend and to allow all those flavors in the palate to expand and express themselves. So something to think about for sure. The review scores that I could find on it have not been particularly generous, putting it at 77 points out of 100 on average. And I think that, I think the situation is that the AO is probably a much better fit for the international market rather than here in the United States. I mean, we have been so spoiled here in the US with other Suntory offerings like the Yamazaki and Hakushu age statements, the Hibiki harmonies, as well as some of the age statements, if you're lucky, that the AO, it just kind of comes off lackluster and almost sort of like strange, like an awkward sibling or something like that. Additionally, it's not bold or robust like we expect from our bourbons, but it is not distinct like the Yamas and the Hakushus, and it just seems to really lack that well-balanced and harmoniousness that we get with Harmony. So it's just left in a weird no man's land that has it sitting on shelves in perpetuity. And for us, for one who loves Suntory as much as we do, and happy birthday Suntory, this one was going to be a pass. All right, so that's it for today's Whiskey Wanders at the Costco in San Diego next to IKEA. And I really hope that you enjoyed this video. And in fact, I hope you enjoy all the videos, whether it is the wanders or the hauls or the reviews or the unbottlings, the unboxings, really all the amazing stuff that we have cooking up for you. And we have tons of amazing stuff cooking up for you. And if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe because it really does help the channel to grow. And again, we're so thankful for that. But also, I like to think that it is good for your whiskey mojo. It pleases the whiskey gods, and you get notifications when our newest videos come out on Sundays and, sometimes in between. All right, now, real quick before I go, just remember, if you do find a whiskey that you love, just buy it. Because if you don't, somebody else surely will. Maybe not in this case, but in the other cases, it might even be me. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your week. I'm out, and adios.